Words About Dune is a poorly spoken podcast about Dune. It features two guys that just go off on random tangents, and did you know that the crown for the Empire has, like, fish and fists on it for some reason? I'm Nate, and that's Ben. What's up with that crown, buddy?
I never thought about it. Why did you think about it?
Because I highlighted it.
You highlighted? Is that why you wanted to grab your book before we started? You just wanted to, like, see what you highlighted?
Yeah, that's true.
Hang on, let me see if I can find my first highlight at the point we are in the book.
An abortifact.
Abortifact?
An abortifact? That's an object to force an abortion on Chani.
Oh my god.
That's its name.
Okay, here's the first highlight I found. You probably will enjoy this more than anyone in the audience. Production growth and income growth must not get out of step in my empire. I am the supreme energy eater of this domain and will remain so, alive or dead. My government is the economy. Order in council, the Emperor Paul Muad'Dib. He made somebody, like, transcribe that. I love that. Can you imagine if, like, Joe Biden's just like, I am the supreme energy eater?
I can imagine Joseph Stalin.
I can kind of imagine Joe Biden.
Why would you want to?
Well, not you. I don't imagine everybody nude and jiggling.
Well, maybe
Speaking
you
of,
should.
Last time on Words About Books, we talked about Alia's big naked sword fight. I haven't yet heard how Nate edited that one, but...
Very tastefully.
Yeah.
Very tastefully.
Yeah, his interpretation of that was interesting.
Hey, there was a disquieting femaleness about her that he had never considered in his sister.
Oh, God. See, that's what I mean when I say, like, Brian Herbert is never going to rise to the level of Frank Herbert.
Because he needs a big naked sword fight.
Well, you know what? He's got those.
Any fat jiggling people in his book.
Oh, yeah, he got fat people.
Oh, I guess he did have... There's like a fat Bene Gesserit.
Yeah, no, he is like...
But is she naked and jiggling and oiled up for some reason?
I don't... Oh, man. I don't know. Maybe you should write him a letter.
Hey, Brian. Big fan of you since the beginning. I shouldn't write him a letter. I should just write a manuscript and hide it in his attic.
where he gets all his ideas. So Paul had a reason for walking in on Alia's big naked sword fight. Do you remember what it is?
He went in there, if I recall, he was like, we need to discuss something, but, like, I see you're busy, so I'll come back later.
He didn't, though. They discussed it right then and there.
Okay.
Do you remember what they discussed?
Was it going and seeing, was it seeing the face dancer disguised as the girl?
No, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Was it...
You gotta keep up with Dune, man. There's plots within plots.
Her impregnating Arulin, so like Arulin will cut it out.
I bet that Slaylax could make that happen.
Yeah, good for them.
But no, it wasn't that.
Okay.
There's one other subplot in the book that
Duncan, Idaho.
No, it wasn't about Duncan, Idaho. But there is another subplot in this book that Frank Herbert forgets about.
The tarot?
Until, I want to say, Heretics of Dune. This never comes up again. The guild is plotting to steal a worm.
Okay. Yeah, and they successfully do it off screen. It's mentioned in passing. And then they're like, yeah, but it probably won't survive. And then they actually handled this in the BBC by having them steal a worm, and you see it, and then it also is never mentioned again. Ever. Because they stop after Children of Dune.
Yes. I will say, the reason the guild would want to do that, for those who aren't as well-versed in Dune lore, is that Paul's hold on the Empire largely depends on his complete control of the spice, a resource everyone needs to survive, basically. And Paul could, at any time he wants, just destroy all the spice on Arrakis. The worms produce the spice, and so if they could get a worm off of Arrakis, have that worm breed, and start the spice cycle on another planet, Paul's empire is in pretty deep trouble. They would no longer need him, and they could just leave him stranded on Arrakis, and that'd be the end of it. But, fortunately, that's really hard to do.
Unfortunately, Frank
Right
Herbert
now.
forgot about it, so it's not a concern that Paul ever has to deal with.
Yeah, it's kind of a... I don't want to give too many spoilers for future books this time, I guess. But it's not that hard, actually, to start the spice cycle on another planet.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why they're
Did
having
you
so much
retcon
trouble
that?
with it. Kind of. A little. Like, it's just really not that hard. They actually managed to keep a bunch of worms alive indefinitely on a spaceship in Brian Herbert's book.
Well, I mean, that's...
It's canon. I'm informed. So that is why Paul had to interrupt the big naked sword fight. And yeah, you're right. It does kind of sound like he just belatedly realized he needed a reason to be there. But this is the part of the book.
Maybe he didn't have a reason, and like the character Paul was like, oh crap. What can I say to make this less awkward? Let's talk about a giant worm. Oh dear.
The whole middle of the book is probably your favorite part, right, Nate? That's where we really get into the deep political and economic theory of Dune.
I don't remember the middle of the book. Did something happen?
Do you remember Paul's conversation with Edric on the limits of prescience and religion?
I hardly remember him having a conversation with Edric at all. Now remember, everyone, Edric is a naked fish man who sits in a tank that he poops and pees into.
He's not naked.
I assume someone has to fish out his solid waste at some point, or maybe there's like a machine that will do that. Like a basic machine that just removes the waste from his tank. What does a diet in spice lead to? Like, in terms of waste? What does that look like? Like, if I just ate cinnamon for like a week, what would be coming out of me?
Is this really how boring you found the middle of the book?
I like it when the face dancer shows back up.
Well, lucky for you, I've been told Brian Herbert is working on a Faces of Dune. So...
Perfect. All my questions are going to be answered.
Yeah. So basically, Paul and Edric have this conversation where Edric basically comes right out and says that Paul's religion is bullshit and he's flirting with danger, and his exact words are, "Power tends to isolate those who hold too much of it. Eventually, they lose touch with reality and fall." And so Stilgar wants to execute him.
Right.
You don't talk to my boy that way.
You don't talk to God that way.
Yeah.
He's got a crown with a fish and a fist on it. You can imagine what he's going to do to you, Edric.
Basically, Edric's saying, why did you employ all this religion if you didn't want to? And Paul says, "Religious manna was thrust upon me. I did not seek it." "Then why have you not disavowed it, sire?" Edric asked. "Because of my sister Alia," Paul said. "She is a goddess. Let me urge caution where Alia is concerned, lest she strike you dead with her glance."
Yeah, she'll do it while naked too, buddy.
Oh, God. Would that have made the middle part of the book more interesting for you?
If she had a naked fight with Edric, I don't know how that would work, but, I mean, you know, maybe that's what Frank Herbert was into, and this was before Pornhub existed, so...
Okay. You have no idea what Frank Herbert was into. Wait until we get to Heretics of Dune. But don't worry, you got some time.
Yeah, Heretics of Dune, that's what, like 5,000 pages away in like 4 books?
It is 2 books away.
No, it's not. God Emperor is 2 books away.
God Emperor is the second book. Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune.
So it's 3 books away.
I hate you. I don't even know why we do this podcast.
Why do we do Words About Dune is
So
restart.
Alia finds a body in the desert. Do you have any thoughts about this, Detective Nate? Do you know who this body might be?
Yeah, I have great thoughts. So we know that this person was a woman, and she was a Fremen, and she was addicted to Samuta. Therefore, we can conclude absolutely nothing. I'm stumped. I'm sure everything is fine. This is just a normal occurrence. Fremen wander out into the desert and die all the time. Let's break for lunch. Who wants spice burritos?
Who wants spice burritos? Yeah, that's kind of where Olia's going with it. Thank God Duncan was there. Not psychic, not all-powerful Duncan. To put Olia back on the straight and narrow.
Well, to be fair, Alia just makes a series of poor decisions this entire book. Really does not come off as, like, competent or capable at all.
Yeah, she really did say to die in the desert is a common enough occurrence.
I agree with Alia because she'll kill me if I don't.
So I wanted to read just this passage and get your idea on it. So they're examining the body. They cut off the hands, they cut off the head, and they can't identify it. And they're guessing that her DNA probably isn't registered in any data bank somewhere, so they can't even do that. And Alia says, "And this flesh is too far gone to be regrown as was done with your body."
Right.
So
You need to get him into a freezer.
Right. So I was wondering, like, does that point to they actually, like, reconstituted the body and restored it? Or are they taking, like, a single cell and cloning it? Because presumably, like, her DNA wouldn't have broken down
Again, I figured it was just a big old pound of flesh, and they just went from there.
Right, but...
They put it in the easy bake oven, and...
Right, but would it matter how long it's been dead? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's decomposed, I guess.
Right, but what are you doing with the pound of flesh? Are you regrowing it? Are you cloning it?
Well, it's too dead now, Ben. It's not fresh. You gotta get the fresh meat.
I don't know. I think the idea of what a Golem was
tasty.
changed.
Yeah, probably, but I don't have any reference in this book to suggest that. So, you know.
So a couple of
What I do know...
Oh,
Oh, sorry, you go on.
No, I want to know what you do know.
Alia studied the steel balls, which were his eyes.
Do you have anything else?
I did attach a note saying those weren't the only steel balls. All right.
Well,
What were you saying?
That's actually a good segue into what I was going to say.
I'm happy to help.
We get a couple of interesting points of character development over this dead body. The first thought we get is Alia's inner monologue. And Alia is kind of bemoaning her lot in life. She didn't want this. She didn't want to be...
she's a Disney princess. She wants more, even though she has so much already.
She didn't want to be this, like, different from other people. She didn't want to be preborn. She's kind of, like, suffering with it. She's resentful of her mother.
Her mom sucks.
She can't really embrace it the way Paul does. And she doesn't want to be seen as a god anymore. Fortunately, there is one real hot dude who is about to tell her he doesn't see her as any different than anyone else. And Idaho...
That's because the robot eyes.
Idaho starts to sass her a little bit. Like, he challenges her. He says she's being irresponsible. He questions her, and she's like, nobody talks to me this way. And he's like, I do. I talk to you however you want. Don't call me a
child, she snapped. I put a note next to that that just said, wah.
Well, she is 15.
Yeah, but she's lived countless lives, and he's 15, but, like, he's of age. He's grown up into, like, a 30-year-old man.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea how old Duncan is supposed to be.
I assume that if and when they make a movie of this part, they're just going to conveniently leave ages out of.
So let's read a little bit, Nate. And I just want to.
Man, I didn't get a book podcast to read.
I just want to get some of your impressions of this scene. I will suggest to my brother that you are much too dangerous and must be destroyed, she said, turning to face him. A solution I've already suggested, he said. And that's why you're dangerous, she said, measuring out her words. You've mastered your passions. That is not why I'm dangerous. And before she could move, he leaned across, gripped her chin in one hand, and planted his lips on hers. It was a gentle kiss, brief. He pulled away and she stared back at him with a shock leavened by glimpses of spasmodic grins on the faces of her guardsmen still standing at orderly attention. Alia put a finger to her lips. There'd been such a sense of familiarity about that kiss. His lips had been flesh of a future. I hate the word flesh. I think I've said this before.
Yeah, it's a horror word.
Yeah. I should have you flayed. Because I'm dangerous? Because you presume too much. I presume nothing. I take nothing which is not first offered to me. Be glad I did not take all that was offered to me.
Jesus. God.
So are you rooting for him? Are you shipping it?
No. I think when I read that, my response was like, oh God, will I be thankful that we didn't just right here on the landing pad.
Wow.
Right in front of your guards. They would have been watching. They wouldn't have done anything because they're bad guards. Like,
well, it's like high school. They all think it's real cute. Like that boy kissed her. Isn't that? Oh my gosh.
yeah, use your thousands of lives to determine like what positions would be best.
You're overthinking it. You're sucking all the romance out. You're sucking all the romance that Frank Herbert worked so hard to put in. Right out of this situation.
I wish that Duncan would have felt her arm and said, "I hate sand. It's so coarse and rough, but here it's so smooth."
Well, okay, we're gonna get to that part. That's Paul and Chani. We're not there yet.
Oh God.
So
honestly, I don't remember Paul and Chani doing anything. I remember that she dies and he's just like not there.
okay, you're skipping too far ahead because
we're going right to the end of the book. Paul died. No, go on.
Let me read you the part of this scene I actually did have a problem with. I can't explain it, she said, but I keep thinking of face dancers. Why is that? That is why your brother sent you into the desert, he said. Tell him of this persistent thought. But why? She shook her head. Why face dancers? There's a young woman dead out there, he said. Perhaps no young woman is reported missing among the Fremen. Like, why couldn't Alia figure that out?
Because she's incompetent.
Like, I know they're trying to show that the Idaho Gola is so smart, but, like, that literally is why Paul sent her out there. And, like, Paul was like, yeah, I'll send Alia out. She'll figure this out. She's really smart. She's psychic. She has the memory of God knows how many very intelligent women.
Huff enough spice, okay?
Well, she will huff plenty later.
She does do that. Like, an entire spice mine just disappears up her nose. Oh, God.
What are you oh God about?
Oh, God.
What are you oh God about?
Why is she as incompetent as her mother? Like, I get that her mother's memories are in her, but
she's not that bad.
Well, yeah, she hasn't created a crack baby. She is the crack baby who has to live with her mother's terrible decisions, and also she can experience her mother's like memories of making her into a crack baby.
Yeah, well, that was a big part of her spiel out there in the desert, was that she was a little disappointed in Jessica.
Yeah, and she's like, I knew my father through my mother.
Keep bringing that back up. That did not happen in this scene.
Yeah, she does say that to him.
Yeah, she said that to him like last episode, and you talked about it last episode.
No, I didn't. We talked about it last year. She knows her father through her mother. And then I just kept thinking of you and what you said last year.
Does that mean he remembers his parents having sex? He definitely remembers his parents having sex.
From both perspectives. Oh, Ben, help. It's flying off the rails. What's next?
Well, do you remember a certain vision Paul had about a moon that falls?
Yeah, I remember he talked about a moon that falls over and over and over and over and over again. And then I was like, all right, maybe Ben will tell me what that was about, because, I don't know. I guess the moon symbolizes his empire, because that's his symbol, and also the symbol of Islam, because Frank Herbert is...
We're not going there. Shut it down. Shut it down.
So the moon is a symbol of his empire, and I guess like maybe his empire is falling or something like that, and then And then he talks, and then he imagines the moon, and then we go to a different chapter.
Initially, I would say actually on my first 2 readings, I sort of had the same impression as you. The moon that is falling vaguely symbolizes Paul or Paul's reign or Paul's life or his happiness or something like that. The point is the moon's falling, and that's not ideal.
Yeah. You have to go back in time and do the sequence again.
Duncan gives him this lecture about you have to live in the moment. You have to just do what you can do when you can do it.
I have to do no such thing, sir.
This chapter, on my 3rd reading, started to make sense to me.
Okay.
Literally, as I was preparing for this episode of the podcast, I think it finally clicked into place. I still don't know what the moon means exactly, but this chapter, because of its placement in the book, leads me to believe that this vision is Paul's final confirmation that he has to take the path he doesn't want to take, that he has to accept Chani's death. And he also kind of has to, oh my god, the moon could be Chani.
I just asked that.
Shit. Yeah, didn't he call her like moon? No, that's Khal Drogo. No, he calls her Sahaya, which is like rain. Or no, it's not. It can't be rain, can it? I think the moon could be Chani. God, there's a lot of things
I'm
wrapped
ahead
up.
of you already.
Yeah. You've been ahead of me this whole book. Like, you're having deep insights into the true nature of Dune Messiah.
Yeah, that very misunderstood book.
It took Nathaniel Creed to finally crack the code. It took a man who didn't want to be here so much that he would die before becoming the antithesis of his selfdom. And it triggered your genetic memories to have to sit here and talk about Dune. The only way to get out of this conversation was to solve the puzzle, and so goddammit, you just solved the puzzle. But so yeah, Paul basically resolves himself to taking the path. And that brings us to the next chapter, which is Paul's confrontation with Gaius Helen Mahayam, ya girl.
I did add in some music when you introduced her last time, so
I will replay it. That is her theme. I hope Denis Villeneuve is taking notes.
Yeah, get the Space Jam soundtrack and just play it whenever she arrives. I don't care how out of place it is.
You know, it fits better than Toto.
That's true.
So, Nate, do you remember the confrontation between Paul and Gaius Helen Mahayam? Because I think that would be pretty impactful.
He makes her walk a really, really, really long way, like just, I guess, to be a dick. Like, let's make this old woman, like, have to walk a few miles to see me. Wouldn't that be funny?
Well, it's part of the political gamesmanship. He wants to intimidate her. He wants to have her exhausted and on the back foot during the negotiations.
And then his throne room makes him look like a giant, I guess.
Yeah, it's psychological games because it's really smart, and like the way you're saying it, it doesn't sound really smart, but the way Frank says it, it sounds really smart.
And then he's trying to make a deal with her.
Yes,
he'll give Arulin.
Oh no,
Arulin a baby, right?
Arulin, yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's an artificial insemination. That was the kicker. That was the thing where the Reverend was like, "Oh no, artificial." But then she's like, she has to consider it because, goddamn, she needs those genes and she needs them without that wild Fremen genetics. And in exchange, Paul is trying to avoid Chani being super dead.
So this is a place where maybe you could provide me your strange insight. What control does he think the Bene Gesserit have over whether or not Chani dies?
See, that's interesting because he mentions when Chani dies, he's like, "There is no other way. You didn't know, like, if you would have lived, you would have been, like, in a cage, like an animal. Like, so I don't know. He sees some weird future that I think he never fully fleshes out because, I don't know, Frank Herbert fully fleshed it out. I think that he assumes that Chani dies as a result of the conspirators? ?
That was the only thing I could assume as well, is that he thinks the conspiracy is what kills Chani, but it's not.
Not at all. Unless Arulin poisoning her with the birth control for so long did something. But...
Well, that obviously did something, and that's implied to kind of be the cause of death, because we'll get to that in a second. But what could that's done?
Well, maybe he doesn't know that it's done.
He's Paul Muad'Dib. Yeah, he does.
Hey, there was a naked fish man that was clouding his vision. He doesn't know for sure.
But okay, what I didn't go into detail in is in the moon vision, he just took a huge spice overdose and tripped his way through the Dune Tarot and the thing. And I guess if you boost your powers enough with that spiced coffee, then you can shoot on through that fog.
Well, to be fair, that was Jameis's loser spiced coffee, so maybe that didn't help. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was just messing with her. Maybe he was like, "Hey, I need your help to fix this problem. I'm willing to make a deal." And deep down, Paul's like, she's going to die anyway. I don't give a shit about you.
If there was something he saw in the future that had to do with the instability of his rule that the Bene Gesserit could help fix, but that you have no idea either, and as reluctant as you are to admit that you enjoy this story, you have thought about it, and so that you didn't figure it out either does lead me to believe that's kind of a flaw in the book. Because like I say, if on 3 readings I cannot figure out what exactly it is he wants Gaius Helen Mohiam to do. But yeah, the Bene Gesserit believe that there is a psychic connection that occurs during sex that is very important to what they do with the memories and all of that.
Now, are they right?
I don't know. I mean, I honestly, it's never confirmed. And obviously the Duncan Idaho Gola has some form of accessing genetic memory, though he doesn't access the genetic memory of his ancestors. He only accesses his own genetic memory. And genetic memory in and of itself is kind of magic and has no scientific basis. So they could be right. The Bene Gesserit, I will say, throughout the entire series, the Bene Gesserit and the Kwisatz Haderach are the only ones who can access the memories of other people who have lived before them. There are a number of Golas that retrieve their memories, but none do it quite like the Bene Gesserit. So maybe. I definitely think, like, Frank Herbert seems to agree with them. I would say that he probably thinks they know what they're doing.
I disagree. I've seen the Lady Jessica. She does not appear to know what she's doing ever.
Well, she very explicitly did not listen to the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah, and then when a Kwisatz Haderach was made, it murdered billions of people.
But
what was their plan here with the Kwisatz Haderach?
Let me ask you this, though, Nate. What if Paul is doing exactly what he was meant to do? What if it's kind of one of those, and again, we're going back to Star Wars, and I'm just sort of back to our proving that Star Wars stole everything that was good about it from Dune. What if the prophecy misinterpreted, mayhaps, it was? What if the Kwisatz Haderach was shortening the way, but the way in which one shortens the way is not the way that the Bene Gesserit expected? Did you ever think about that, Nate?
What if, and hear me out, okay, what if the way is like a delicious cake recipe and you're adding shortening to it to make it like fluffier and also fattier? How about that?
What?
You're adding shortening to
Oh,
the way.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. And in this case, because I know you're speaking in Herbertian symbolism, the cake is
a lie.
That's a dated reference.
That one hurt to say.
That's when all the kids get. All the kids who are reading Dune.
All the kids from 15 years ago. So what you're saying is the Bene Gesserit actually don't know what they're talking about because they misinterpreted their own prophecy. Is that what you're saying? Like, I was right when I said they had no idea what they were talking about?
They knew what they were talking about, but they didn't realize how bad off humanity actually was, and they didn't realize how much suffering humanity would have to go through to correct its course.
So they up, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So I guess to conclude, Mahayam says she might be able to make the deal, but she's got to make a call back to her people. It's too big a decision for her to take.
So I don't understand this part either, because it's like, it seems like you're getting everything you could want except for maybe how it's delivered, but in exchange, you're really not going to have to do much of anything. But they stall. Like, she just stalls and she's stalling. No, but she calls back to her home and just they don't ever do anything. They never comment on.
No, this plot thread is entirely lost.
It's just like, I have to go call them, and then Gaius Mahayam is executed. The end.
Do you think? Because this is what I kind of wonder. I kind of wonder if there's so much that's going on here. Like the Bene Gesserit side plot is just a total red herring. I think the only reason any of this happened is to keep you guessing about what Paul will do. The whole thing where like they might try.
That didn't work because I knew what he was going to do.
Well, you are a terrible audience.
That's fair.
And my point is, the whole Alia thing is a red herring. The whole Irulin thing is a red herring. So they were just kind of trying to bring Irulin back into the picture.
The whole Duncan, Idaho thing is mostly a red herring. He doesn't actually kill Paul.
Yeah. The only thing... I like the Duncan, Idaho thing, because I like Duncan, Idaho in this book, to be perfectly honest. I like the back and forth that he like. I like the... So this is a trope I like, I guess. The character who is brutally honest about everything, just speaks his mind, and suffers no consequences.
So you like Sherlock?
I love Sherlock. Do you want to read Sherlock Holmes? I've read every Sherlock Holmes story multiple times.
That sounds about right.
I don't know what that means, but I'm insulted.
You should be.
You're the one who likes the little people, like the tiny civilization trope.
Yeah.
Don't come at me, you weirdo.
I'll come at you, bro. Where are we in the book? Oh yeah, Gaius Helen Mahayam. She's like, all right.
Gaius Helen Mahaim's making long distance calls on Paul's plan and just running up his phone bill as her last.
That's why Paul makes her jog 2 miles to go see him. And
it's her last ditch. It's her last thorn in his side. She's just gonna really run up his phone bill.
Well, he is the economy, so
he is the ultimate consumer. No, that's not what he's. Energy eater. Jesus. Thanks, Frank. I'm trying to defend you, man, but like, okay. So Chani finds out Irulin's been feeding her contraceptives.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm going to kill her. And Paul's like, yeah, you can kill her. And then Irulin is not killed. Thoughts on that, Ben?
He didn't say that. Are you serious?
Hold on.
No, my Sahaya, you'll kill no one. And he thought, Irulin prolonged your life, beloved. For you, the time of birth is the time of death.
Wow, spoilers, Paul.
Where did you get that he said to go kill her?
I have no idea where I got that from. But now the book makes a lot more sense.
My God. You just thought Chani never got around to killing her.
I was very confused because what you just described is how it goes down in the BBC, and
And the book.
And I apparently have some advanced form of dyslexia.
Boy, I would not want you to be my assassin. You would be mixing up a lot of important things.
We already said I'm the guy taking notes during Paul's meetings, so
Yeah, you're the guy poorly taking notes during Paul's meetings. You're like, wait, what? Who are we killing?
all right, we're killing a Rulin. All right, I'm writing that down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was very confused when they all arrived at the Siege at the end, and a Rulin was there, and I was like, but wait, why is she not dead?
So this is when a mysterious Fremen girl shows up at their doorstep. We, of course, know this to be Scytale.
Wait, what? We do? I thought that we concluded, as Alia did, that, like, that was just a random death in the desert, and it has no bearing on the plot.
Pretty sure it's told from Scytale's perspective.
I think you're right. I think did he also have to walk 2 miles to go talk to Paul?
No, because he's pretending to be a Fremen, so he gets the express lane.
He
Disney
gets those
pass.
things at the airport that are basically a flat escalator.
So it's obviously Scytale. We know it. Paul knows it. The only person who doesn't know is like Banerjee, the Fremen, who is the guard.
He again? Oh, he was the guard.
Yes.
Stilgar didn't know it until Paul pointed out, and then Stilgar was like, let me go kill him.
You could fill Siege Quanot with what Stilgar doesn't know. That guy has fallen so far.
I fill the Quana all the time. Why didn't he ever make a move on Paul's mom? Like, again.
What? He made a ton of moves on Paul's mom.
Yeah, but he did. He was like,
Oh, bro code. He respects Gurney Halleck.
bro, why?
Because Stilgar's already got 2 wives.
Yeah, but he doesn't have 3. And, like, don't you want to really unite these families? Baby.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Stilgar became senile in his old age, apparently, because he doesn't know anything anymore. And he's like, hey, let me kill her. And Paul's like, nah, don't do that. Scytale, on the other hand, is like, hey,
Gotti.
you gotta go visit my dad. He has information on who these Fremen traitors are that are out to get you.
Yeah, and they want him to bring Chani, and Paul will not bring Chani. And Scytale almost blows it by, like, really pushing his luck.
But like my dad said, to bring Chani.
Yeah.
You need her there for some reason.
It's really super obvious that Paul knows what's going on, and, like, so this is obviously part of the path that Paul needs to walk. And this is something I think we'll have to talk more about when we read Children of Dune. Because I need to read Children of Dune again to fully understand what Paul's vision is. Because he can't save Chani, which is what he desperately wants to do. But he's locked onto this...
help me save Padme. Oh, you already made that joke. My bad.
Yeah, but he's locked onto this path, and I assume that this path is a way to help humanity. But
Question mark?
Yeah, but that seems like it's later questioned in Children of Dune if Paul actually... Like, in Children of Dune, they will imply that Paul didn't go far enough. That there were things Paul just wouldn't give up, and so Leto 2 has to do it. But it seems like Paul's trying. He's trying to keep the path, because he knows this is a trap, and he knows that, like, once he does this, once he goes to this meeting, he is locked in. Chani dies, it ends badly for Paul too, and basically everything he didn't want to happen is going to happen. But he's going to go anyway, and he's just going to give himself over to the vision.
When he could just jihad Scytale.
Well, he could kill Scytale, but it's implied that if he does that, it's somehow worse.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's personally worse for the people Paul cares about, or if it's worse just for humanity in general. The first time I read this, I thought it was just humanity in general. I thought that Paul was making a sacrifice for the greater good. But then when you read Children of Dune, Paul seems selfish almost. And I guess maybe the selfish thing about Paul is that he should have given up Chani a long time ago. Like he needed to sacrifice everything that made him human if he was going to pull this off, and he just couldn't do it.
Why could he not make both of them into worms?
Oh, dude, we're children of Dune territory. We'll talk about that later.
They can both jiggle at each other, as I assume worms do. Is that what, I think I already asked you, Leto the Second, he jiggles.
I don't think he jiggles.
I think he should.
I think his skin is, like, harder than diamonds.
But he could jiggle it because he's the God Emperor.
I assume if he wanted to jiggle, he could, but he would not debase himself so.
I mean, I would. Does he wear pants too, Ben?
No, he doesn't have legs.
Wear a little jumpsuit.
Okay, no, the God Emperor is nude. Does
Finally!
that make you happy?
God! Alright, so yeah, the face dancer's like, hey, go visit my dad, bring Chani, it's definitely not a trap, bad things are definitely not going to happen to you. And Paul's like, I'm not going to do that, but I will go visit your dad.
So, I want to read a quote, and this is where whatever Paul is doing, he's accepted the consequences finally, and he's basically just admitting that now he's trapped, he knows everything that's going to happen from here on out, and it's fixed. There was the feeling in him then that his body had become the manifestation of some power he could no longer control.
But what if he decides to do something different?
He had become a non-being, a stillness which moved itself.
Like, just randomly kill Stilgar or something. Like, f*** you, visions.
At the core of the non-being there existed... Sorry, go ahead and interrupt me one more time, Nate, because I gotta redo that line.
Okay, yeah. Maybe also just, like, go nuts and just impregnate everyone.
At the core of the non-being, there he existed, allowing himself to be led through the streets of this city, following a track so familiar to his visions that it froze his heart with grief.
Yeah, like Dr. Manhattan.
Speaking of Dr. Manhattan and the Manhattan Project, Nate, I don't think you're going to need my help to tell everyone what happens next.
Paul gets a dwarf.
I forgot about that, yeah. He
Yeah,
doesn't...
you did. I was like, I was talking to you about Big Jaws or whatever his name was, or B-Jaws.
I forget him constantly.
Yes! I was like, oh, what about that dwarf? And you're like, who? Like, the dwarf, he can't be something that the BBC added in. He had to be in the book. And I looked it up, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so...
an important plot device, in that he is a device. He has a thing in his throat that has the records of, like, memories, or of names.
Let's back up. Why don't you tell the audience who B-Jazz is, where B-Jazz comes from?
He's a dwarf.
Like, how... I know he's a dwarf. How does he come into the scene?
He's given to Paul by Saital's doppelganger dad. Hold on. Saital, as the girl, it's the girl's dad. And he is like, let me present you with this dwarf. Also, I've got a sickness from another world. I'm dying.
Sickness. It's called disco fever. The thing they lure him out with is that there is a subset of Fremen plotting against him, which, not technically a lie, which is probably how they dodge Paul's truth sense, except Paul already knew what they were doing. Plots within plots. So Paul gets this cryptic little person who
talks really annoyingly. Frank Herbert was like, you know what? Duncan, Idaho wasn't bad enough. I need to have two
Duncan,
of
Idaho
them.
is a treasure. You take that back.
I need to have two people who talk in annoying riddles and roundabouts. And
I love the riddles.
And there comes a point where they talk to each other, and it's just like, kill me. Just kill me right now.
Nate, look. Sometimes you gotta ask yourself the tough questions to find deeper truths. You gotta ask yourself, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound?
What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Right. These are the things...
Are you getting that?
I'm getting it a little.
I solved the riddle, asshole.
You are not going to reach enlightenment in this lifetime. Let me tell you what. So, okay, Now, Nate, do you want to talk about the scene I was actually thinking of?
Yeah, so he takes the dwarf and he goes back home. The end. All right, no.
And he lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
Chani died, but he had a new best friend.
So, does B-Jazz know that this is gonna happen? I assume he knows it's gonna happen.
Well, yeah, B-Jazz is just fine, isn't he?
Yeah.
How's that work? How did B-Jazz come out of it okay?
I don't know. He kind of disappears, so...
Maybe he just he boogie scooted. See you back at the palace.
Paul's walking down the street, and then BAM! Nuke goes off.
That's true, yes. Paul's walking down the street, and then not a nuke, because that would have killed Paul.
Yeah, a stone burner, which is an atomic weapon that just, like, burns your eyes out.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what kind of weapon it is. They say it skirts the conventions against atomics. It produces a very intense...
But it was called an atomic.
Yeah, it produces a flash burn. Radiation's not a thing, just don't worry about radiation. It produces a flash burn, and it burns so hot that it melts rock, and it can actually...
But it doesn't burn Paul to death despite him being down the street from it. Yeah.
It seems like it's somehow like a focused beam that goes straight down, because he talks about it
the bomb releases massive amounts of J-rays, which is a radiation that dissolves eye tissue.
I don't think that exists.
That's stupid. Is that real? Hold on, there's no way that's real.
I don't think that's real. I think I looked that up the first time I read the book. Well, because you do hear about that. Like, there is a flash problem with nuclear weapons. If you're too close and you look at the flash, it'll blind you.
Yeah. It will also kill you, though.
No, there were people who survived, not very long, but
yeah.
they did survive long enough to experience the horror of being blind before they died. So, yeah, that's something to look forward to. So, Paul and all his men get their eyes burned out. And isn't it a good thing that we had that foreshadowing at the beginning about the blind Fremen? Because now we know that means Paul, by Fremen law, is in trouble.
Go into the desert. That's it. That's it. Just go into the desert, Paul. Bye. But don't worry, Ben. Because A, we have robotic eyes in this world, and B, Paul can just see with the power of prescience. And no less than 3 or 4 times, he displays his prescient eyesight to someone who is then afraid.
Yeah, so Paul orders that all his men are to be given Tleilaxu eyes.
I believe it's pronounced Tlaxu, but okay.
Tlaxu. So Paul orders that all his men are given Tleilaxu eyes. And that means that they can technically continue to hang out because they're not blind, quote unquote.
Yeah, just like how it's technically not an atomic weapon, even though it uses an atomic fuel source.
So, Paul, for himself, just leaves his burnt out, empty eye sockets to make everyone around him very uncomfortable. And he does immediately start showing off that he knows exactly what's going on, despite the fact that he no longer has eyeballs. He operates equipment. He calls people by name before they even speak. And this is the funniest one. I don't know if we're going to come back to it specifically, but I highlighted this part where Chani is like super pregnant and they're flying out to the siege, and Paul insists on piloting his own thopter to what I imagine is like the most stressful flight of Chani's pregnant life. It's this man with no eyes is trying to land.
What an asshole.
God. Yeah.
Maybe he's just trying to kill her. Like, we need this pregnancy to kill you. Like, that's the only way. So, like, maybe if I stress you out enough.
But yeah, after Paul gets his eyes burnt out, he goes kinda nuts. Paul keeps talking to Chani, right? And another Star Wars comparison. Paul is going to have twins. But whenever Paul talks to Chani, he only refers to the baby as a singular. And Chani wonders, like,
yeah, why doesn't he know this?
I think he doesn't know this because powerful oracles cloud your vision. And Leto 2 is going to be the most powerful oracle to have ever existed. And so Paul can't even...
I'll become more powerful. Oh.
Paul can't even see him.
Wow.
And he's really starting to freak Chani out. Like, he starts talking very cryptically, and he starts referring to himself as, like, a dictator. And Chani's like, you're not a dictator, you're a good man. And he's like, she goes, your laws are just. He goes, laws, he said. He crossed the window and pulled back the draperies as though he could look out. What's law? Control? Law filters chaos, and what drips through? Serenity? Law, our highest ideal and our basest nature. Do not look too closely at the law. Do, and you'll find the rationalized interpretations, the legal casuistry, the precedents of convenience. You'll find the serenity, which just is another word for death. And Chani's like, look, I was just asking you what you wanted for breakfast. And that is like the tone of every conversation everyone has with Paul for the rest of the book. Somebody is like, Paul, you don't have eyes, man. And he's like, there will be no constitutions in my kingdom. A constitution is a restriction on my holy authority. And like, it is like Paul just becomes like a Frank Herbert. Like, he just becomes Frank Herbert.
Let this be a lesson, kids. Don't do spice.
Don't do spice, not even once.
You'll become Frank Herbert.
You're just going to be waxing philosophic about political systems, quoting Aristotelian logic.
Take the road more traveled. Be more like Brian Herbert.
Be mediocre. Oh, they do successfully steal another worm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
Mentioned that. Yeah.
He mentions it briefly, and then it never comes up again. He mentions it to his priest who we haven't named this entire time. His priest is secretly working against him, and later he's executed. So that's his entire story, Ben. What's next on the agenda? Who else are we killing?
So I think I'm going to skip right to, and this is another one you could probably tell us about.
The ending?
I want to skip right to B-Jazz, Trigger in Duncan, Idaho, which is pretty close to the ending.
Oh, okay. You're going to kill Paul, yo. First let me give you some weird rhythmic clicks or some shit to put you in a trance. Then go kill Paul, yo.
He does a seductive dance. And then
he jiggles at him.
Yeah, and then Duncan Idaho is entranced and he's like, I will do whatever you say.
He's like, all right, at some point, Paul is he's gonna turn to you with a tear in his eye and be like, she's gone. And he's gonna seek comfort in you. And then you're gonna stab him. You're gonna stab the shit out of him. You're gonna kill him? You're gonna take his man flesh? You're gonna put it in a freezer? You're gonna grab Chani? You're gonna put her in the freezer too? You're gonna get them cloned? We're gonna have some cloned emperor and empresses. It's gonna be awesome.
All right. Hey, random question. Did you ever actually read the stuff at the beginning of the chapters? Like the quotes?
Yeah, I read them and then I don't comprehend them most of the time and just scrub them from my brain.
Well, this is one you might understand. It's from Children's Verse from Muad'Dib's History.
Oh god, it's about the traitor in the ranks. Look, we already know it's the suit doctor, okay, Frank? We get it.
There was a man so wise, he jumped into a sandy place and burnt out both his eyes. And when he knew his eyes were gone, he offered no complaint. He summoned up a vision and made himself a saint. That's a little something fun to sing in Sunday school.
Yeah, it's like Ring Around the Rosie, except with
living gods and their maimed faces.
Yeah, it's like when you're in Sunday school, you're like, pin the eyes on the Muad'Dib.
So yeah, and then he's got like some more stuff. Like he wanted to turn to the aides and shout at them, "If you need something to worship, then worship life, all life, every last crawling bit of it. We're all in this beauty together."
Like all those ones that you extinguished.
We did. Yeah, he killed a lot of people.
Yeah, he killed a ton of people.
Yeah. So Paul, I think we're ready to skip basically to the end.
There was no other way, Chani, beloved, believe me, that this death was quicker for you, and kinder. They'd have held our children hostage, displayed you in a cage in slave pits, reviled you with the blame for my death. This way we destroy them, and save our children. Huh? Like Chani had to die? No matter what? In order to save her?
She had... I don't think it was going to end well for Chani one way or the other. I think Chani was going to have a bad time.
Then see a future where she doesn't, dummy.
You don't know how prescience works. Paul has tried to explain it to you 3 times now. At this point...
Yeah, it's magic.
At this point, I'm questioning if it's just a refusal to understand on your part. Why are you like this? So, then Paul utters the trigger phrase, "She is gone."
And then Duncan, Idaho is like, "Must kill Paul." And then Paul's like, "Did you say something?" He's like, "No, and also I've reawakened." And Paul's like, "Cool, come with me." And then they just move on.
No, dude, I'm just reading this again. This is actually great. He moved to another's command, to another's desires. The strings jerked his arms, his legs, his jaw. Sounds came squeezing out of his mouth. A terrifying, repetitive noise. Harak! Harak! Harak!
Is that what Duncan is saying?
It says H-R-A-A-K. H-R-A-A-K. H-R-A-A-K.
Oh my god.
That's how I imagine it sounded. And I bet Paul was scared shitless. Dude, if some guy comes charging at you just going like that, you are going to run.
I don't even think he's charging him. I think he's stalking close to him, which is even more terrifying.
The knife came up to strike.
Like Jason coming after you, but he's going, "Hack!"
Oh, gosh. We have fun here. We have fun. My neighbors are having fun, I can tell you what, as we record this at 10:30 at night.
Last episode, I was just trying to crack you towards the end.
Oh, gosh. But yeah, so Duncan, Idaho's back, and Paul's like, "Good to see you. Knew you were coming back. Again, your Lord and Savior, ya boy, Paul Muad'Dib, super psychic. Not sure why you guys don't remember that.
Anyway, let's go visit my dead wife and her
Yes,
two
my
children.
dead wife and my child." But then they say, "Children."
Oh my god!
Paul's oracular vision totally collapses at that point when he realizes that there are 2 kids, not 1, and his vision is not coming true. And he can no longer see the way he did before.
Yeah, good job, Leto, you idiot.
And that is
I like how he named him Leto the Second, even though there already was a Leto the Second.
You
but we're just,
bring that up literally every time we talk about Dune.
that child. I am trying to keep that child's spirit alive, okay, Ben? I'm doing more for that child than Frank Herbert, Paul, or Chani ever did.
That's factually true, but still, I think it's like old school medieval Europe rules. Like, if the kid doesn't live to their 5th birthday, it just didn't count. You gotta... These are trying times, man. You just gotta steel yourself. You're gonna lose 10 or 12 before one of them sticks.
And you're gonna drink the water that was inside their body.
Obviously.
You're gonna put them in the juicer, and you're gonna drink sweet, sweet life from them.
Do you know why you're gonna do that? Because it tastes amazing. That's all that Sobe life water crap is.
People? Babies?
Yeah, it's just people. No, I don't want to do that, because this is like what that guy did with the Chuck E. Cheese pizza. Sobe life water is not people. Okay, I'll get that out there. Yeah, so Paul's having some trubs here.
Yeah, Alia, we've already covered this. She's incompetent. She makes bad decisions. She's just bad. And the next book, she's going to start murdering people. So, like, let's just write her off. She's had too much crack in the womb. It's not her fault. Sorry, Alia. You gotta go.
I like Alia. I'm Team Alia, and I feel really bad for what happened to her in Children of Dune. I place 100% of the blame for everything Alia has done wrong on the lady Jessica, no last name given.
To be fair, the Lady Jessica does suck, and I've been saying that since the beginning.
I agree, and I think that just totally, like, Alia was, like, not only was Alia left on her own, she was, like, left on her own solar system to figure out how to live as this creature that no one else had ever successfully lived as. And Jessica just thought that was okay.
What? She failed.
Yeah.
Like a
and Jessica
failure.
just shows back up to put her down like a dog at the end. It's like, thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica really does suck.
Yeah.
She's the worst.
So, Nate, tell me what happens. Take us out.
All right, so Saital is like, oh, yeah, see that? Duncan got his memories back. So we can make Chani whole again, just like we made Duncan. And all you have to do is give me all that sweet, sweet chome. Oh, yeah, all the chome. Give it over here, big boy. And Paul's like, oh, yeah, I can't see. You deal with him. And then they start discussing more chome. And Paul's like, wait a minute. I can see. But from where? Oh, my God. I'm seeing through my son's eyes. And we know from earlier in the big naked sword fight that Paul is a master knife thrower. And that's not a euphemism. He throws knives so well. So he
throws the best knives.
Yeah. He's No one listened to the fold. I'm not going to make a fold joke.
Make your fold joke. I'll listen to it.
Well, remember how those guys threw the spears so great.
No. They threw it.
I still laugh when you said that those aren't the alpha predators. You should see the alpha predator. He throws a spear through the f***ing planet.
There's a spear so good it'll blow your damn mind. Oh.
So Paul
we need to do an HD remake of The Fold.
I'd be down.
We haven't even been recording that long. It shouldn't be this far off the rails. I'm just very warm right now.
So Paul,
I feel like I'm on the sands of Dune.
Paul throws a knife so goddamn well it blows Saital's mind literally, and he died. Then Paul, he does a Luke and Leia thing where he just names them real quick and then wanders away. And Paul's like, all right, that's going to be Leto, and that's going to be Ganima. Ganima. Yeah, those are...
Did they not say Ganima's name in the BBC?
I think they did, and I'm bad. And then Paul's like, and now I must wander off in the desert to die. Alia, you're in charge. I'm sure this won't turn out really badly. I don't think that you'll become a horrible abomination that's going to kill a bunch of people and threaten my children.
If only he could see the future.
Yeah, he couldn't see anything. That's why he's going out into the desert to die.
But then he can see the future again. We'll talk about that with Children of Dune.
Ben, who cares? Then, after he wanders off into the desert to die, oh wait, no, before he does that, Bajaz is there. Bajaz is like, it worked, just as planned. And Paul's like, hey, Duncan, kill this guy. And then he wanders off into the desert.
You just got bejazzled.
He got bejazzled.
I didn't think that would get you.
Oh, God. Oh, I definitely should have consumed a bunch of caffeine before I started. But you know what? We're doing it. And then Alia is now the regent, and Roland's gonna raise those kids.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah, so that's what. Okay, no, we do have to talk about that. So Alia, like, real quick, sums things up at the end, talking to Duncan. She's saying about how Rulin is, like, weeping and mourning, and all this time she realized that she was truly in love with Paul.
Well, he's still alive. Just go out in the desert.
Well, I mean, she's kind of more in love with, like, the Paul who had eyes, but... Now that he's dead, she can really express it. I mean, he's probably dead. He's as good as dead, so she could probably express it. So that came out of left field, and I was just like, okay, whatever, Frank. I guess that's a Rulin's reward, because Rulin really got treated like shit the entire novel, so she gets to hang out. She gets to be she gets to sit at our lunch table with the cool kids, with Alia and Duncan, Idaho. And
How nice.
Alia then is like, you can already sort of start to see that the pressure is getting to Alia a little bit, because it had been happening all book. So in retrospect, I think Alia's eventual turn in Children of Dune has been properly foreshadowed. I don't think that was a bad thing.
Yeah, she's like, stay with me, Duncan. Show me your man flesh.
Gotta stop that. We're gonna owe that guy royalties. I think I will close our discussion with a reading from the Gola's hymn.
Oh, God.
No bitter stench of funeral still for Muad'Dib. No knell nor solemn rite to free the mind from avaricious shadows. He is the fool saint, the golden stranger living forever on the edge of reason. Let your guard fall, and he is there. His crimson peace and sovereign pallor strike into our universe on prophetic webs. To the verge of a quiet glance, there, out of the bristling star jungles, mysterious, lethal, an oracle without eyes. Cat's paw of prophecy whose voice never dies. Shai-Hulud he awaits there upon a strand, where couples walk and fix eye to eye. The delicious ennui of love. He strides through the long cavern of time, scattering the fool self of his dream. You may clap. Did you take your headphones off?
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the button flesh.
So, final thoughts. What did you think overall of Dune Messiah? And don't give me that crappy, it was shorter, so it's better.
I was going to say it was shorter. Good night, everyone. I like that it was paced better. I liked that. I didn't. I'm very tired, Ben. I like that it was paced better. I like that it wasn't a standard hero's journey novel. Did some different things, took some risks. Did talk a lot about politics in the middle there, and there were a lot of story threads that seemed to just disappear. Oh yeah, Gaius Helen Moheim, she's dead now.
Oh yeah, that literally did happen. Just like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, by the way, we executed all the members of the conspiracy off screen. That is like classic Frank Herbert. I loved that. And then like Paul had explicitly told them, don't kill Gaius Helen Mohiam. Like I think he realized she's just kind of doing her job. And then Stilgar went ahead and killed her anyway.
Yeah.
Because Stilgar just hated her. I liked that. Good for him. Good for Stilgar taking initiative.
Yeah, I mean, he's been wrong about everything, but like maybe he'll be right about this. Idiot.
Yeah, so I have to say, basically having read this book 3 times now, I was a little bit surprised to find I think this actually ranks near the bottom of the Dune series for me.
Even lower than Hunters of Dune?
No, God, no. No. No, what I acknowledge to be the Dune series. I'd say it's still a solid 4-star book for me, though I know obviously it's not going to be to everyone's tastes. There are a lot of hanging plot threads that I don't think were intentional. I think that's kind of just the story got away from him a little bit, and he didn't really know what he wanted to do with some of the characters.
Hire an editor and a proofreader, dummy.
Yeah, I mean, how much of that's down to the serial publication, I don't know. But
Frank, hire me the next time you decide to write a book.
He's dead, so...
Yeah, but he's still writing through his son through those outlines. So.
I don't think Brian Herbert's going to hire you.
Oh, man. Brian, I'm available to read your stories, offer my feedback and criticism.
As always, though, I like the writing. I like the politics stuff.
I would rank this as number 1 of the Dune books
of the
that
two
I've
you've
read.
How much better? I actually prefer Dune, I think.
I think that has even more plot lines that went nowhere. Like the entire first part of the book.
I agree. It doesn't bother me. So there's enough there that I can totally overlook that. Like,
I will say that the BBC production, which we should still talk about because I think this actually isn't going to be 3 parts. I think that the Dune Messiah portion of that was the worst part. It was clearly just a bridge between the 3-part Dune series and the Children of Dune series.
I think Dune Messiah probably has... I think because it's so short, it suffers the most from the hanging plot threads, which is a weird thing to say. But I like losing myself in sort of the absurdity and the weird philosophy of Dune. I like just getting totally absorbed in the book. And so this one being so short, it really juxtaposes just how the plot threads are hanging with the main story quite nicely. Because like it's literally like one chapter, then the next, like one chapter will set up a red herring, and then the next chapter will do away with it.
And you don't like that. You don't like that it hasn't gotten weird yet.
You're correct. Like the weirder Dune gets, the more I like it.
So you're gonna have a field day when we go to God Emperor.
Oh my God, you are gonna be so upset.
I'm already planning retaliation. So
if there is a book that is gonna end this podcast, it is God Emperor of Dune. That may be the one you don't make it through. You just walk off set and I have to do it by myself, which I will. I'll just do selected readings from the God Emperor of Dune. And you can try to guess what the story is.
I'll just come back the following month. But
yeah, so I guess we managed to talk about a Dune book in 2 episodes, not 4.
Thank God.
So what are we gonna do for the rest of Dune month?
So yeah, Ben's gonna watch some videos and complain about it, and I'm gonna read some graphic novels with him on Dune, and that's the rest of Dune month. And then after we're done doing words about Dune, we're gonna go to Ben's horror bullshit with Uzumaki.
Have you started reading Uzumaki?
I have not.
Oh boy.
And we're also gonna try and read Something Wicked This Way Comes and some other horror bullshit. So look forward to Ben ruining everything and destroying all my joy. And then after that, we're gonna do the Dragon Republic in November. So just a series of downers, one after the other. I can't wait. How about you, buddy?
I can't wait, but there's a little give and take in our Words About Books programming schedule, because that's not all we're doing, Nate. We're also officially kicking off our StarCraft stream.
Yeah!
I don't remember if we told the people about that on the previous episode, but we will be streaming Words About Books on Twitch at twitch.tv/wordsaboutbooks. We are going to play video games that we have read the novelizations of and talk about that while I play the games. They're games I don't like for the most part. Yeah, so don't let Nate fool you. He's still getting his. With that said, if all of that was not enough, check us out on Twitter at WABpod. Read our blog at blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. If you feel like we deserve a little something extra and you'd like to contribute financially to the show, hit us up on buymeacoffee.com/WABpod. If you want to help out the show, but you don't have the cash, that is completely fine. Go ahead and give us a like or a share on social media. Tell a friend, you tell one friend, and then they tell one friend, and then soon enough, the entire world is listening to our show.
Unify the world under one rule. We're the ultimate energy consumers, or whatever.
Man
That's
flesh.
Us. Man flesh.
Man hooch. This is the greatest gift Brian McClellan ever gave us. All right, good night, everybody.
We should do a full remake. Yeah, he's different than the Bene Gesserit in that he didn't care about how much suffering had to be done in order to turn the USSR into an industrial power.
Also, he had a mustache.
He had a great mustache. It's like,
they all do.
Like
all the dictators do.
That's like his best quality as a human being. His mustache and his hair. And how he looks with a pipe.
That dude had thick hair.
That dude was a handsome man.
Yeah.
It's just a shame he killed so many people.
Yeah. He was a really bad guy. Don't get me wrong. We do not stand Stalin on this podcast.
Yeah, I've got a fish and I got a fist, buddy.
I got a fish in one hand and a fist in the other. And I don't know which one I'm going to smack you with more.